Welcome to Igniting Inspired Insight, a space for real conversations with beautiful humans. I'm your host, Jae, teacher, guide, and student of energy and understanding how we can find this deep and beautiful wisdom within. Each short episode here is an opportunity to ask 3 questions to open the door to reflection, resonance, and revelation. We know the questions now, so I just want to offer that this is a space for truth, trust, and the kind of insight that comes from simply being human. So today, let's begin, and I get to introduce you to my sister, which is really cool. I'm so excited that she's here and that we get to share this experience together and to really see where the convo goes. And I love where she's taken her life and what she's doing with the choices that she's made and the beautiful mother that she is. So I'm really honored to share you with the world, actually, with my world anyway. So what I would like to do now is to introduce my beautiful sister, Sophie. And for those who are listening, who is Sophie?
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. Like you said, I'm your sister. I'm a mother. I've got 2 girls and a dog. He's very much part of my children. I live up in New Plymouth. Who am I? I'm just a person who's trying to find some peace and deeper meaning in my life, and I have chosen to do that by I'm on the path at the moment to become a pastor. And that shapes a huge part of who I am, that journey that I've been on, which we'll talk about more about soon. But I'm just someone who wants to find deeper meaning and love and peace in my world.
Agreed. I love that. It's so cool. So, yeah, I want to get into the next question now because I think I know where it's going. But here we are, common thread, the question what's one moment, belief, or experience that changed the way you see the world?
Yeah, and there's just one thing that immediately jumps to my mind when you ask that question, and it's my testimony. So I'd love the opportunity to share that with you.
Yes, please.
As you know, didn't grow up in a Christian household. It was a very normal home. It was very loving. But like many teenagers and preteens, I went through some really hard years in that time, and I started to get really down. Down's an understatement. I was seriously depressed. And I just felt like I wasn't good enough. I was very confused and angry, bitter, and I was just sad all the time. And I got really good at putting on a brave face and pretending that I was okay when I wasn't. And then as I got older, especially through my teenage years, I tried to fix how I was feeling, or numb, it's probably a better word, with all those wrong choices like alcohol and drugs, self-harm, partying, sex, which just didn't work, unsurprisingly now. But when I was a teenager, I thought it could help. And I ended up really suicidal. It was rough. But I struggled my way through. I eventually started seeking professional help. I went to doctors. I talked to a therapist, many therapists, trying to find someone who could just help me. The antidepressants helped in that they numbed how I was feeling, but they also numbed any good feelings as well, which I really struggled with because they're precious. Over the years, I settled down, started working. I met my husband, and I had children. And I just sort of thought those things would fix how I was feeling, but they didn't. They distracted me from how I was feeling, but they never fixed it. And I still felt really awful inside. And one day I was taking my oldest daughter to kindy, and I met this lady, and she invited me to come to church. And I very politely said, "Oh, we'll see." And I had no intention of ever coming. I didn't want a bar of it. I not only wasn't interested in church, I was actually quite anti it. It was nothing not because I'd ever had a negative experience. I just thought it was a load of rubbish. But she kept being my friend. She kept inviting me, and eventually my husband started going with our oldest child, He was brought up in the church. He had good experiences. He appreciated the values that he was taught there, and he wanted those values for our children. And then honestly, out of a sense of obligation, I went to see what my child was experiencing. And I went there and I just saw these people worshiping, and they were free and they were joyful, and they just clearly weren't carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders like I was. And I didn't know what they were experiencing, but I knew that it was something that I wanted in my life. So I started an Alpha course they were doing, which is like Christianity 101, just teaches you the basics. And it taught me a lot about the history, about the evidence of Jesus. And I prayed for one of the very first times in my life I'd ever prayed. And I said to God, if you're real, I'm going to need a Bible. And 2 weeks later, my Alpha leader comes into church and gives me this Bible. And I'm a very visual thinker. So when I prayed, I pictured it. And what she gave me was exactly what I pictured. The lettering was the same, the cover's the same, the gilding pages were the same color, it was the same shape, same rounded corners. It was like, it's the same book. And I just burst into tears. And you know me, Jay, I'm not a crier. That's unusual for me. So that poor lady wasn't quite sure why I was crying, but she knows. And that was really that moment that changed the way I see the world. Because in that moment, I had this intense, sudden realization that God's real, and that I wasn't this accident or it wasn't just a coincidence that I'm here. I was on purpose. I'm intentional. And that changed how I viewed everything. So over the next few months, I realized that that hole inside me, that numbness, was gone. I was very tentative about that. I was nervous that it was a temporary thing. I realized that those negative feelings, I'd actually forgotten to think about them, which I'd never forgotten about them before. It was really significant. So I saw doctors and we made a plan to come off my medications. And I did. And that was 9 years ago. And I haven't looked back. I just want to make it quite clear, like, I believe in medicine. I believe in doctors and counselors, and they do amazing work.
Agree.
But for me, I needed something more as well, and that's my journey. And I know that won't be the same for everybody. But for me, where I'd been feeling confused and I felt like I had direction, where I'd been really angry and bitter, I felt like I had been accepted and I was forgiven and I was able to just move on. Where I'd been sad, I felt joy. Where I was putting on a brave face, I felt honest. I could just be honest about things. And the Bible talks about the fruit of the Spirit. So that's the evidence of the Holy Spirit living within us. And those fruit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I love these. I think that's something we all crave. And I struggled at every single one of those fruits before. And now I look back, I'm not perfect in any of them. No one's perfect. But I can see that I'm growing in them daily. And I'm just so thankful for every moment I got to have in my journey, because I'm a new creation now. And even that hard stuff grew me to where I am today. And I think it shows that there's lots of different paths we can take in life and we have lots of different options. And I'm just really thankful for the path that I've been able to go on.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Soph.
That's okay.
And you know, and it's a choice that you made, but you also reflected that it was a choice you didn't want to make in the beginning. You were like, I don't want that. Like, I don't understand that. It wasn't that you didn't want that, but you didn't understand what was available for you.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder how many other choices I've turned down in my life because that could have been amazing things because I didn't understand them. I didn't want to be open to it. And I'm really thankful that I had a persistent, loving friend that kept encouraging me, and a husband that was open to it, because otherwise I don't know what would have happened.
No, and we can't ever know. But I also believe in in timing and divine timing, and thinking that, you know,
Yeah.
maybe if you were ready earlier, but it wouldn't have been the right time for you to see it in the same way, like to be in that awe and to see the worship and go, actually, that's what I want. Because possibly if you hadn't sort of come through some of those clouds, you again, you wouldn't have seen it in the same way, which is, and here you are now offering and working in that work.
Yeah. And like obviously I've gone through some stuff, but that means I'm able to talk from a place of experience with other people who are going through it too, and sort of support them in that way, which is a nice way to use a negative experience, is to be able to journey through these things with people from a place of experience and understanding. Yeah,
Compassion.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And I get why that has now changed the way you see the world.
Like completely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just something to celebrate, you know,
Mm.
how drastically life can change, but also how finding the right path and the right environment can really ignite a beautiful light within you that wasn't there before.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something interesting people say, which I wouldn't have taken seriously at all beforehand, but that like colors are brighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first became a Christian, walking around going like, hearing like a bird or seeing a bug, I'm just thinking like,
Yes.
wow, that's on purpose. Cool. That's part of like a bigger picture and a bigger plan. Or
Yeah.
like, and just seeing things, or like just actually just seeing things instead of
Yeah.
walking past oblivious because I'm in my own thoughts or I'm just doing a task that needs done.
Mm-hmm.
But actually just
Yeah.
seeing the world for the beauty and bigness that it
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Which comes through that, you know, developed awareness and presence and appreciation.
Yeah. Huge amount of appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful attribute as being in that, in the gratitude and appreciation for who we are and what we have, and viewing the world in that way is, yeah, it's it's a I feel like it's an upward spiral, like it keeps giving, it keeps giving. Being in that,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a cool analogy.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, here we are. I love this question. So here we are in the moment. So just got asked this question, but not before we arrived here. So she's had a moment to prepare, but with this question, it's fair. So this question for you is, what's one sentence that you want to share with the world and why?
Yeah. This is a great question. And it's possibly one that I would change my answer in almost every day, especially different moods and seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a Bible verse, Philippians 4:7, that reads, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guide your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." And based on that, I wanted to say the sentence that through an understanding of the power of peace, your interactions with others and the world will flourish.
Mm, that's
Um,
beautiful.
and I think the reason I want to say that is I go to a weekly group with some women,
Mm-hmm.
and we just talk about, as a church group, so we talk about all sorts of things. But we were talking the other day, and I was asked if we could have an abundance of just one thing in our lives, what would we have? And that morning, I had walked my daughter to school, and when I walked home, it was along the roads, school traffic, there were kids on bikes, and I just thought, this is a lot. This is a lot of concrete and a lot of noise. And I saw a walkway, and I just shot down it and was completely alone in nature in that moment. And I loved every second of it. I could smell the earth. It had been raining a few hours before. I could hear the birds again. Um, it was just a beautiful moment. And when we talked about it in group, I was saying, I really want that feeling. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized that what I was really looking for was just that abundance of peace.
Mm-hmm.
I was craving more time just with nature, with God, with myself, just to have that peace. And through that, I was recharged. I was able to have better interactions in group, better interactions with my family, better interactions with me, better interactions with God, with the world, with everything, because I've been refilled with some peace. And it was only a short walk, but it was enough. So that's why I want to say that sentence, because just the power of peace is profound.
It really is. I can
Yeah,
hear that. And I know that a lot of people listening will be like appreciating the reminder and
yeah,
also agreeing. And you're not alone in that. Like I think so many of us are seeking. I also feel like in that piece is a simplicity
mm,
and an
yeah,
ease.
absolutely.
Mm,
And I just think we get so distracted by busyness and
noise.
to-do lists and just life and family, and some of them are amazing things to be distracted by.
Mhm.
But sometimes we're not supposed to be distracted. Sometimes we're just supposed to take the moment.
Agreed.
Yeah. So if that's a
Yeah,
reminder
it's
for someone today, take it.
yes. Well, thank you. I needed that. But I also love the connection and the reminder because it's the same for me. That's what being in nature does for me.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
reminder
Yeah.
of that earth rhythm, of that peace, of that the beauty of nature and all the sounds that come with that. And what I mean is like the brush of the leaves and the birds and the smells actually as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, and it does just it's one of the quickest ways to bring us back into that space of peace, right?
Yeah. It did
Mm.
make me think about the last time I was visiting you and we went on that walk with my kids.
Yes.
And it was just fun, but it was also grounding.
Yes.
It was a recharge. Loved it.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite ways to spend time with people was just wandering in
Mhm.
nature.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. Thank you.
That's all right.
Okay, here we are. Now, sister, I don't get to say that every day on the podcast. Here we are at Reflecting Light, which means you have a question for me.
I do. So I've shared a lot today about how God has been growing me, and I would just love to hear about part of a growth journey that you've been on recently.
Growth journey that I've been on recently. And what floats to the top of my mind is coming into a new level. When I say new level, because it's not new in its sense, but at a new level of actually, it really reflects your second question. But a new level of intuition. So, really listening to what's right for me, what's in alignment with me, and acting on that. Because there's been times in my life and previous where I've heard my intuition or I've been in the knowing of what's true for me, but I haven't quite had the courage to do it. And, or even just in like letting it flow through my day. So what I mean by that is like sometimes I would get an intuition, but I wouldn't listen because I'm used to control and everything needs to go this way because that was my plan. And I'm like, no, but your intuition is actually telling you that you need to do this right now. And so being more fluid and trusting with that is actually something that's been a beautiful growth for me. But why I say it links to what you shared in your second question is that what's been coming through for me is aside from this podcast, which I'm absolutely loving, is to step back from the online world, and that's like programs and online coaching and all that sort of thing, and be in nature and to be learning. This is a growth thing for me, learning more about what we can forage, learning more about the medicine and plants, learning more about growing and brewing tea and making more things from scratch and just being more connected to nature and what I'm putting in my body and enjoying the sun. So
Mm,
that's been like a growth in the listening, but also growth into just really leaning into the medicine of nature.
mm. Big
Yeah.
growth in knowledge as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But where I'm acknowledging that is reflecting back to the initial answer is that different versions of me wouldn't have listened to that because it wasn't the plan that I had or what
Yeah.
everybody else is doing. But really listening, and I don't know how long I'm going to do that. It might be just one summer, it might be for good, and then wherever I'm going with what I'm learning is where I'm going. But I'm just in the listening and the trust of that that's what's right for me right now.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
we have those inner voices for a reason, but we so often try to squash them. So I'm stoked that you're listening to it and
Yeah,
growing.
we
It's cool.
we we squash them because we're afraid, or
Mhm.
what I'm seeing for, and what I alluded to is like it wasn't in the plan. So
Yeah,
I'm going to ignore it because it wasn't in the plan, and it's
yeah,
like, well, actually, no.
yeah. Definitely have those moments. Have your plans and you want to stick to them no matter what, even when everything's telling you to do something different. But
Yeah,
I planned this.
yeah, yeah. Or I dropped my thingy. Or it's outside of the box from what others around you are doing, and I
Mm.
am really grateful for actually not really feeling like I've ever needed to do that, like to fit into the norm, or to the box that we feel sometimes that we need to in order to belong. So yeah, just listening to that, but in turn, like then we get to be in this beautiful fluidity of what life wants us to do, and trusting that the universe, which is essentially like my God, is like that it's telling me what's true for me, and being in the listening of that. And I love it. It's great. Thank you
Awesome.
for that question. It's epic. So good. So here we come to the end. Although I think that I could play on some more combos for sure, but where I wanted to ask before I close up this combo, I wanted to say thank you. I'm really grateful for you and for what you do and what you've shared.
Yeah.
Mm.
So welcome. I'm really thankful for the opportunity. Appreciate it, Jay.
Yeah. And for those of the us that are listening and maybe want to connect with you and your message, or perhaps even where you're based, how might they do that?
Yeah, so I'm in New Plymouth, so I'm part of City West Church. Anyone's welcome to come anytime. We stoked to connect with you and to talk about it more. If you're not in New Plymouth and you want to talk about anything that I've said today, I think Jay's going to put an email address, make an email address available, and I'm happy to talk things through. It's part of my role, and it's part of my role that I absolutely love is talking to people about these things. It's pretty special actually. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been on it.
Yeah, there might be that initial beginner, curious, not interested, like you were.
Exactly. Hey, if they're emailing, then they were more outgoing and bold with it than I was. So that's awesome.
Exactly. They're being, yeah, proactive with it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sophie. I'm so grateful that you've been here and that actually that other people get to meet you, which is kind of cool. Um, because you're a New Plymouth, not everybody knows who you are. They've heard about you, that's for sure. And for those who are listening, thank you for joining us on another episode of Igniting Inspired Insight. If today's conversation moved you, perhaps you want to share it with someone who would love it, or to open up a conversation for yourselves. And to remember to insight lives in everyday moments and being open in conversation. So keep listening, keep asking, and keep igniting the way. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.